book and the Welcome back, book dragons, to the Emerald Dragon Lady. It's so wonderful to be back. I took a nice little hiatus over the holidays because I needed that break. And it was very busy, and it was crazy doing a lot of cooking and all that kinds of stuff and trying to keep the house clean, which it's kind of fallen by the wayside now, but that's what happens when you have ADHD burnout and you're trying to get all this stuff done to create wonderful, memorable memories with your kids. But I enjoyed being able to see all of my kids come and visit, all but one, and we miss her. So if she sees this, we love you. Hope to see you soon at some point. But I hope your holidays were just as eventful and memorable as mine, and that you got everything you wanted and that you were able to make the memories that you needed. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to do a book challenge update for my astrology reading challenge from 2025. And this is a challenge that was created by Cat's Creations 614, Cat's Book Nerds, and The Reading Scientist. You can see her handles all right here that I just read off. Feel free to visit her on Instagram. She does this yearly book challenge thing, and I'm excited for the theme for this year, for 2026, and I will be announcing that at the end of this video. So if you want to see what the new book challenge is, you'll have to stay till the end. And we're going to recap my 2025 book challenge, which did run over by one book into 2026, but that's just because life got busy and crazy. And the whole point of this was to be able to complete the challenge and read more books off of my TBR. And I think I did that. Now, many of these books were also ARC books that I read along the way that fit the prompts, but I did do my best to try and make sure the majority of them were from my TBR, so that way I can try and get them read. And unfortunately, I think I added more books than I read off of them, because I'm now up to 1,000 books on my TBR. So definitely got to buckle down and start using more TBR books and less ARC books for these book challenges, which shouldn't actually be too much of a problem. And I only say that because the one thing that I learned about myself last year, for me, was that while it was fun reading a crap ton of books, it meant that my personal life and my family life kind of suffered for it. So because of that, I'm actually going to be scaling back on ARC requests. And I've been doing a very good job. I started that in September when I realized it was a problem. And my mental health started waxing and waning towards that time, knowing how busy it gets at the holidays. And I've been a very good girl in being able to kind of restrain myself for a little bit. January and February are a little bit busy because I'm on 3 separate multi-author series teams that are all coming out in January, February, and March. And for 2 of them, I got all of the books, and for the other one, I only got like 2 or 3, maybe 4 at most, I think. But I'm still enjoying the books, and the only reason why I'm not fretting over them too much is because all the books are roughly, maybe there's 1 or 2, but roughly all of them are 200 pages or less. And one of the series is only around 100 pages. I think the biggest one on that one was 200 or just under 200. So they're not like super big books. So that's easy to get them done, and I don't feel stressed getting them done. Great. Now, on to why we're really here, which is the Astrology Book Challenge update. And I am so grateful for this book challenge because it did help me. It was fun to read along with different prompts, and it's something I've never done before, or something I didn't really do before. And so I kind of just jumped right in and had fun with it. So we're going to do a nice recap. I'm going to read off the prompts, and I'm going to have the prompts show up here or right here, something like that. And then I'm going to have the book covers on this side of the video. That way you guys can see what books I read for that prompt. So without further ado, I'm going to read the prompts from the big main challenge, which I think was like 52 prompts, 1 a week. And then also the monthly mini challenges, which had 4 prompts each for each month. So, starting off with the January recap for the mini, we had a book with a forward title, and that was The Legend of by Aaron N. Hall. And I just recently finished the audiobook for that, and Adriel Grant was so good. I loved it. So funny, hilarious, great book all around. I can't wait to read the second one. A book with a red cover, A Fancy Dress Death by Anna Elliott and Charles Vallée. A mysterious or whimsical book, The Vanishing Bookstore by Helen Pfeiffer. A book with a snake on the cover, The Cobra in the Monkey Cage by Anna Elliott and Charles Vallée. A book that is first in the series, Dragon of Wind and Flame by H.M. Clarke. Wow, it's crazy to think. Okay, so I read this book in January of last year, and I actually just finished ARC reading book 3 in January of 26. So, and these books are pretty good. I've been enjoying them. They're great dragon books. A book with 2 authors, and Breath of the Dragon by Shannon and Fonda Lee was the book I read for that. A book with 2 people on the cover, Return to Mooncrest Inn by Toni Cabell. Such a great book, and it's got a cute Valentine's scenes. I think it starts from New Year's and goes up to about 2 days after Valentine's, but the whole thing focuses on getting like the inn ready for a Valentine's thing. So super cute read if you want that for Valentine's. A buddy read. I got to read this with 2 of my Bookstagram buddies. And this was The Blue Sword by Robin McKinley. And my friend Miriam kindly recommended this to me, as she knows I love fantasy. And this book did not disappoint. It was really good. It was a little slow going, a little bit more kind of relaxed feeling, but it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it, and it was just different. I'm used to the high stakes, fast paced kind of stuff. So it was kind of nice to have a fantasy that was a little bit slower paced. It was nice. A book featuring one of the 7 deadly sins, and The Vanishing Bookstore by Helen Pfeiffer was the one I chose for that, because at the end of that book, I can't remember I think it was like jealousy or something, because the main villain of it is like obsessed with hunting these witches down. And like it's not so prominent in the first half of the book, but the last half of the book it is very prominent, and I can't remember what that darn deadly sin was. So if you remember what it is, comment it down below in my comments, or you can go see the video recap for January of last year that I actually posted already, and it probably says what it is, and I just didn't bother looking it up. Moving on. A book by an author who has 10 published books. Die Again, Mr. Holmes by Anna Elliott and Charles Vallée. I think there's something like 38 books in this series. That's a lot. And I only own 14 of them. And I haven't read all 14 of them yet. A book with less than 1,000 Goodreads reviews. That one was super easy because I'm an ARC reader, and so it was easy to go, oh, hey, I can just pick any old ARC I read in January and use that for the prompt, because most of them have less than 1,000 reviews on Goodreads. So I chose Eunoia by Hannah Bree Campbell. I sadly wasn't picked to be on her ARC team to read the second book, so maybe someday I'll get around to that second book, but I did enjoy the first one. And then a book with a blue cover. This was Adult ADHD Executive Function 7-Week Powerhouse by Estelle Rose, compliments of Rosalie Publishing. And I absolutely love Estelle Rose's ADHD books. And it's been super helpful, and I plan on putting out some more content for that. For her books and stuff like that. So, and then last for January was a book published in 2025, The Legend of by Aaron N. Hall. So, The one good thing that I did enjoy about this book challenge is that I was basically able to kind of double dip for the mini challenge and the main challenge, because the main challenge could be completed at any time point in the year, but I did my best to try and do the mini challenges just for that month. So if I happened to read a book that month that fit a prompt for the mini challenge and a prompt for the main challenge, then I totally did it, because it was a lot of work to even find some of the books for these challenges. I kid you not. Like, it was crazy, but it was fun. So, those are the books that I read in January. I covered the astrological signs Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Libra, Cancer, Aquarius, and Pisces. Moving on to February. February mini challenge, a romance book by a author who is Black, Indigenous, or a person of color. And I chose Faye Away by Rose Garcia, a book with a chaotic cover, and that was The Rifters by M. Pax, and that was definitely a chaotic cover for me. It's kind of surprising that I still kind of remember this book, even though I also remember that it was kind of A book with a rebellion, or featuring a rebellious character. And I did The Rebel in Violet by Hannah R. Loyne, because I knew book 3 was coming out in March. And even though it came out in March, I had to wait, I think, like 6 months for the audiobook to come out. And that's saying something, because I started this series on audiobook and I wanted to finish it on audiobook. And so I patiently waited. Everybody got to read the ending, except for those of us that waited for the audiobook, because Nick Sand is such a good narrator. Oh, his voice is just so... I really can't put it into words. But next, a book with a 7-word title. This was one of those books that was hard to find. Like, I had to sit there, I think, for like 30 minutes searching my TBR list that I have saved on Goodreads, counting titles and the words in them to see if I could actually get a book that had 7 words in the title. Do you know how many books don't have 7 words in the title? I swear, I thought I had a book with 7 words in the title like 3 different times. And then when I went back and looked back, I was like, that's not the right number. That's not 7 words. I was like, are you serious? Now I got to go hunting for it again. I think I did that like 2 or 3 times. It was annoying, really was. But I was happy to finally find this book. And I'm like, I don't care if I don't like this book. I'm reading it because I am not looking for another book with a 7 words in the title. I read The Buchanan Brothers and The Botanical Bandit by D.W. Dixon. And that was a fun one. It was kind of like a Sherlock steampunk kind of thing, and it was good. It's like, it was a good mystery, kind of in that era. Lots of fun. That's all I remember. Moving on. A book with an arrogant character. And I read Dragon at Land's End by Maria Grace, which is part of her Jane Austen Dragon series. And it was good because, I mean, there's always a dragon with an arrogant attitude, and this one did not disappoint. A book with dual point of views. I picked Arrows and Gems by Erin Halbmeyer, which was my first ARC book for her, and that was super fun. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. If you're going to read her series, start with book 4. Honestly. That's the best way to go. Just start with book 4 and then go 1, 2, 3, 5, and yeah. So just start with book 4. Promise. Book with a lot of hype. And at the time, in February, everybody was posting reviews and talking about things with The Sirens by Amelia Hart. And so I was like, and then the audiobook became available on NetGalley. And I was like, sure, why not? Let's see what this is all about. And that was an interesting book. It could get a little confusing at times, but once you kind of catch up on the vibe and everything, it works out well. A book with witty banter. Fight and Flight by Scott Meyer, which is a hilarious kind of like computer nerd type book. It's one of those, this guy finds this code on the internet, and ends up going into this digital world, and it's like the better place to live, and it's just funny. It's the Magic 2.0 series by Scott Meyer. So if you're interested in that, it's pretty funny and hilarious. Think of it kind of like a digital D&D kind of thing. It's really fun. A book set in a bakery, and I got to read the novella A Pinch of Change by S. Usher Evans. A book featuring travel and adventure, The Sorceress in Exile by D.H. Hoskins, which I got to read the audiobook as well for that. Listen to the audiobook, and Carrie Darner does an amazing job for Navina and her points of view through all of this. So good. Recommend the audiobooks for this, definitely. A book by an author with a different race or religion than you. Leading in the Lord's Way by Ernst Lee Davis, which was compliments of Cedar Fort Publishing. A book under 200 pages, A Saint's Journey on the Narrow Path by Clark Rich Burbage, also compliments of Cedar Fort Publishing. Thank you so much. Those were fun books. A book set in space, The Halley Traveler by Mike Molman. This was a fun sci-fi book. A book that has a hybrid genre, and that was Lady Apprentice by Toni Cabell. Now, I like most of Toni's books. Her Serving Magic series, as it's called, didn't quite hit the mark for me, but maybe it just wasn't my time for it. So I might give it another chance and see how it goes. It's been kind of on my mind lately because I want to give it another chance. I know her writing style is amazing and I love it. So I'll probably give that another chance. In February, the astrology signs I completed prompts for was Aries, Gemini, Leo, Virgo, Sagittarius, Cancer, Aquarius, and Pisces. Moving on to March. Best month of the year. The mini prompt for that one, a book by a Muslim author or a Muslim representation. And this one was a little harder for me. But when I went into the chat that Cat's Book Nerd and the Reading Scientist have set up for this, a lot of people were using Aladdin retellings for this. So I chose an arc, Bound by Wishes by Jessica Spruill, which is a Aladdin and the Mummy movie series mashup. She did really good on this. And this is a darker, closed door romance book, and it does have some anxiety and PTSD representation in it, and it is done really, really well. And I was a little cautious at reading this just because of my own PTSD, and I can tell you that I still love the book. I may not read it again because I don't want to get triggered, but it was still a good book, and I do recommend it. If you like dark romance books but still want the closed door, no spice or anything, definitely check out Jessica Spruill. A book with the word red in the title, Rise of the Red Empress by Tyler Edwards. A book with flowers on the cover, The Fire at Longbourn by Laraba Kendig. This one was a good rendition. It was a different kind of what if twist. So if you like Pride and Prejudice variations, you might actually like this. An Opposites Attract book, and Fake Dating a Human 101 by Jennifer Croft was this pick, and it was great. I loved it. And this series, Fae Cafe series, was awesome. Love it. A cozy read. Next is A Drizzle of Magic by S. Usher Evans, which is book 1 in her Boboid Perfection series. Loving this series so much. A book with a title that has EARTH, the word Earth, in it. Short stories from Hogwarts of Heroism, Hardship, and Dangerous Hobbies by J.K. Rowling. Such a huge mouthful, but it was one of the few books that I could find with all 5 of those letters. And that was a cute short story. It was a short story, so it was great. A book that has a 4-star rating higher on Goodreads or Storygraph. And I chose Digging Deep by H.K. Brown, which this was a book that I had won from her a PR. I won a PR box from her with this one and book 2 in it, and I went and bought the ebook after I unboxed everything because it looked really cool and really pretty, and I liked it. And I binge read the ebook in 6 hours. And this was not this wasn't a super thick book, but it wasn't a thin one either. I think it was probably around 300 or 400 pages. So the fact that I did that, it just tells you about the book right then and there. Good book. She does a lot of trigger warning stuff in her books. So if you have some trigger warnings, I would definitely check out the trigger warnings for this book. Okay, a book related to death in any way. So I chose A Cherry Sinister Murder by Nancy McGovern, which was the prequel novella start off to her series that I kind of read and finished last year. And I used many of the books for different prompts. Middle grade or YA book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. It was a buddy read with my teenager. He loved it, enjoyed it. A book by a trans author or with trans representation. I picked Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune. And I fell in love with his books, but when I found out more about this author and I learned more about him, my own personal choice, I probably won't read any more of his books. And I've only read the 2, so. Last for March is a book featuring an artist of any kind, and that was Enchanting Fate by Ashley Evercott. And that was a fun one. But I read that one because I somehow got picked to read an arc for the second book, and I wanted to make sure that if there was something in the first book, I was able to pick up on it in the second book. And so, yeah. So for March, we covered Taurus, Cancer, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Pisces. And moving on to April. Now, some of these get a little bit shorter, but April was really, really short because the end of March was when my father passed away. And I was not in a good frame of mind to just read and escape. Like the reading didn't give me the escape I needed, and that's okay. The mini challenge for April: a book you would want to read on a stormy day. And I read Sally's Lament by Mari Mancusi, and that was a very good book. I did enjoy the twist on that one. That one was part of the Twisted Tales by Disney. A book with an instrument on the cover or a musical theme. The Sound of Murder by K.L. Montgomery. And I love the sound of music, so that was no-brainer. Had to read that one. A book with a powerful or unforgettable main character. And that was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Because Gilderoy Lockhart is pretty unforgettable. Like, seriously, you just don't forget him. He's kind of like also Umbridge. You can't forget that character. They're just that type of character. You can't forget them. But I hadn't read book 4 yet at this time. And then a book with a pink cover, and that was more like a pink pastel with purple pastels in it, but I kind of used it because it was still kind of mainly pink. The Claus in Christmas by Casey Kennedy, which was a cute book. I really liked it. And then an emotional read, which I don't know how she did this, but the first time I read her book, she caught me off guard because my dog had just passed away, and her Irish Wolfhound greatly features in the first book. And then, of course, in this second book, one of her characters deals with the long-term grief of losing a parent and having never truly really processed it or come to grips with it. And then, of course, as I just mentioned, I lost a parent before reading this book, and I didn't realize that. And so somehow she caught me again with some kind of death in my family that related to her book. And so I was just sobbing through this entire book. But it is Curtis's Dance with Bourbon by Leanna Airsom, and it's part of her Lost Souls series. The first one was Hexes Go Well with Tequila. I have read the third one, which was the completion of the series, and I do like them. Her series are spicy books, so if you do not like to read spice, don't read these books. Or if you think you're okay skipping them, I can tell you that the spice in them is contained within a chapter in each book. I can't remember the chapters of each book for like book 2 and book 3, but book 1, it's like the second to last chapter. But I do like that series. A book by a debut author, Curse of the Claimed by Slater Hamilton. Excellent magical pirate book. Highly recommend you should go get it. If you like pirates and magic and adventures, definitely get this book. And then a book with a green and pink cover, and that one was hard. But I read Peonies for Paige by Casey Kennedy. And that was a cute little rom-com. Really nice. I got it in one of your probably stuff your Kindle events. So for April, we covered Cancer, Virgo, and Taurus as far as the astrological signs. So really short month as far as book prompts go. I don't think I did all my arcs that I needed that month, but I just wasn't motivated to do a ton of reading. Again, frame of mind. May. Okay, I'm gonna do this. This is driving me nuts. There we go. Now I can do this. May mini prompt, a book set below the equator. And I decided to branch out and read a classic. Because I kind of want to read the classics just to say that I at least read them. And so I read Moby Dick by Herman Melville, which was a gigantic book. That audiobook is horrendously long. Even on double speed, it's still horrendously long. I don't even remember how long it took me to finish this book. But it takes place around Cape Horn, so that was below the equator. Ha ha ha. A book with a flower name in the title. And I started the Wisteria Witches by Angela Pepper series, and the first book is called Wisteria Witches. A recently published book you're excited about, and in that month, or one of the previous months, no, it was that month, Amphibian's Kiss by Lachelle Slater had just come out, and it's such a really cute Princess and the Frog retelling. I loved it. A book that is second in the series, The Cheesecake Fake by Nancy McGovern. So if you remember the Cherry Sinister Murder prequel novella, this was book 1, and so it was the next book in the series. A book with gold foil on the cover. Because I deal in mainly ebooks, I really couldn't do an ebook with gold foil, so I had to find a book that talked about gold and had gold in the title and in the letterings, colorings, and stuff like that. So I chose A Curse of Gold and Beauty by Mary Meekum, which you can find the audiobook on her YouTube channel for free. Go check it out. It's a super quick read or listen. I loved it. It was a great Rumpelstiltskin retelling. I enjoyed that fresh new take on it. A book featuring a mythological creature. That one was like so hard to pick. I mean, I have dragon books everywhere. So I read the novella Scale of the Dragon by Richard Fierce, which is my first book by that author. I'm looking forward to getting some more books by him. And then a book over 500 pages. This is another one I double dipped on because Moby Dick is over 500 pages. Seriously, that sucker was... I like big books. A book with a yellow cover. Next one in that series, Banana Whip Safari Trip by Nancy McGovern. A book with an X in the title, Guilt and Galaxy Cake, also by Nancy McGovern. And so for May, we covered Aries, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Scorpio. Whew, okay, I need a quick drink. I love that. Oh, yum. Okay. June mini prompts. A book with fruit on the cover or in the title. And I chose Feathered Thief by J.M. Stengel because she has golden apples on her cover. And it's interesting to figure out what part the golden apple plays in this book. But this book isn't for everybody. There were some people that it was like, it was really slow and kind of disjointed. I kind of liked it. I liked the way it's basically like a gender reverse Sleeping Beauty retelling, and I enjoyed it. A book set somewhere you would like to visit. And Love Takes a Tumble by Suzanne Ash was set on a beach, and I don't go to the beach very often. I think I went to the beach once last year. And it was also in June. So hey, look at that. But that was fun. A book featuring magic. And I read Stolen Magic by Camille Peters, which my husband still has not quite forgiven me that he has not finished that book, even though I have. He really wants to finish that book, so I'll have to try and get that done with him. A book by an author from a different country, continent than you. And I read The Scarlet Star by Jennifer Croft, and this is her Beauty and the Beast and Queen Esther retelling. And this is one of those, the book is more inspired, and you can see the different aspects and stuff from each story put into this book. So if you read this, don't expect it to be a lot like Beauty and the Beast or a lot like Queen Esther. It's different small pieces here and there put together, and it's a really good book. I really do enjoy it. A book with Queen in the title or on the cover. And I read The Queen's Device by Brittany Mack. Really good book 1 in her dystopia. I can't wait to read book 2. I have it, but I still haven't read it. A book featuring rivals, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Come on. There's no better rivals than Snape and Sirius. Perfect rivals. A book with a weapon on the cover, A Dragon Inside by Annabelle Raven, and I have since completed A Dragon Outside, and that was just as good. And a book with stars on the cover, this was another double dipper, The Scarlet Star by Jennifer Croft, and still recommend. Good book. So the signs we completed in June was Cancer, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. Wow. July was a very busy month for me because we came home from helping my mom over the summer, and me being steeped deep in books while we were trying to help her. And then when we came back, I had a bunch of doctor appointments, and I had to get things done, and it was summertime and my kids were not in school, so it was a lot harder to read books. I was happy to have gotten the mini prompts done along with one other, so July is really short. So the July mini prompts. Book 1 in a duology. And I read The Cowboy Comeback by Roxanne Rustin. And then the next prompt was book 2 in a duology. So it was great to just pick one duology and knock out 2 prompts. A Montana Legacy by Roxanne Rustin. And these were cute, great. I didn't like the Montana Legacy as much. There was too much going on for me to be able to focus on it. And then a book by one of your favorite authors. And I was so happy to be able to ARC read this book. I love being Tyler Edwards' ARC reader, or at least one of his many, because he writes awesome books. Absolutely love them. So Crown of Sorrows by Tyler Edwards. Highly recommend. This was actually his first closed door romance, high fantasy, high stakes book, and it did not disappoint. It was really good. He did put himself out a little bit more and trying to make the romance a little bit more prominent than what he normally writes, and I think it did great. I don't think the romance overtook the book. I think it was the right balance for it, especially for his style of writing. Excellent book. Love, love, love. And I do actually have the book somewhere on my shelf, on one of these 2 shelves. And then the last for the mini prompt is a book published this month. So a book published in July of 25, which was The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. Loved it. It's great. It actually has good representation for depression and loneliness. And it's a Grumpy Sunshine book. So if you like that kind of thing, definitely read this book. I'm looking forward to book 3 and Fire Away In by her as well. And then the last one for July, a book that is part of a duology. Again, double dipping for that one, A Montana Legacy by Roxanne Rustin. And that was for the Gemini prompt for July. And that wraps up July. Moving on to August. We are now halfway through the year in book prompts. It's a lot. August, mini prompt. A book that takes place in a state bordering the Great Lakes. And I had to confirm with the author. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is where you put Riddle Hill, but I need to make sure that this is where it actually is. So, Rhyme, Riddle, and Romance by Toni Cabell is set in a town by the Great Lakes, and it's really, really good. By the way, side thought. If it looks like I'm trying to speak into the mic a little bit more, it's because I am. For some odd reason, the mic tends to not pick up my voice if I have it off to the side, so I have to have it kind of in front of me. And I know I'm a loudspeaker, but I'm just trying to make sure that I have the best audio for you all. A book by an author with an initial in their name. And this was an audiobook, and it's Coming Home by H.K. Brown, which is the second book. And the first book was the one that I read in March. I actually read the second book in March as well. And I was just lucky enough to get an audiobook copy of it, and it was really good. I loved the audiobook better than just the book. Lisa Lynn Sandlin is the one who narrates that, and she did a really good job at bringing that out. That one also, trigger warnings. Please double check the trigger warnings. A book with a pretty naked cover, basically a book with no dust jacket and still looks pretty. Again, I usually don't have physical books, but this time I did, because I have the Kickstarter version right here of The Town with the Butterfly Problem by S. Usher Evans, which is book 1 in her Firewing investigation series. And I was lucky enough to be able to not only win one through her Kickstarter competition with her street team, but I also backed it. And so I got my own copy, and then I got to give away a copy. And that was so much fun. I loved it. And it's a very pretty book, and oh, I loved it. Anyways, a book published 33 months ago, which I had to do the math. That would be November of 2022. And so I chose to read Mom of the Chosen One by D.M. Fike. That was good. It's a good, it's got a better representation for, the older woman instead of, all the 19 and 20-year-olds kind of thing being the main characters. This one is definitely a mom who has a teenager, and she's in her late 30s, early 40s, I believe. And it was funny. I love the banter in this book, and the adventure was great. I do want to continue this series because I'm kind of intrigued to see where it goes. And a romance book with your favorite trope. And I had to think long and hard about that, and I figured out that basically my favorite romance trope has been Grumpy Sunshine. I love the Grumpy Sunshines. So I chose Sweets and Sycamores by Ariane Nix, and I got to read that one as well. That one's a cute, witchy fall vibes book. A book with King in the title or the cover, or on the cover, and I read The Orphan King by C.N. Noble. That was an intriguing book. I did enjoy that one. I will probably read the next book in it, but I don't know when I'll get to it. A book with a 5-word title. The Horse is Never Wrong by Mary Pagonis. And this one was okay. Honestly, I don't like some of the things that happen in the book. It's definitely not a closed-door book, and I was blindsided by that. And I liked most of the story, except for just those certain parts. I was like, you didn't need to include that. And then last, a book by an author you want to give a second chance to. And I read Dragon Quest by Anne McCaffrey, which is the second book in her Dragons of Pern series. And yeah, I still don't know if I want to keep reading that series. Anyways, so for August, we completed Gemini, Leo, and Libra for the Astrology book challenges. Wow, it looks like September. I really cranked them out. I have a lot here compared to October, and that looks like July too. So the September mini, a book with blood in the title. And I read The Bloodveer by Christy R. Harrell. And then a book with jewelry on the cover. I read The High Crown Chronicles by Jodi Gallegos. Both of those were really good books. I enjoyed both of them. Probably will continue those series, just don't know when. A book with a historical setting. I read The Case of the Clockwork Canary by Daisy Landers, which is her prequel novella to her Lady Ashcombe series. I'm really loving these cozy Victorian mysteries series. It's a fun, cute one. A book with a fall-themed cover, and I read Jackets, Jack-o'-lanterns, and Justice by Tanya Capes. A book featuring twins, The Dressmaker's Secret by Kellen Roth. Really good audiobook series. I've completed it by now, and I love it, and I can't wait for the next book. A book set near the water or ocean, and I read The Secret of Poppy Ridge Cove by Rumi London. Check the trigger warnings on this one. There is some dead animal bodies kind of featured in this one, but I didn't, like, other than just that, honestly, I think it was fine. I enjoyed the book. A book with a cat on the cover, and I read The Case of the Cat-Napping Killer by Abby Ebert Pate. A book with any landscape on the cover, and I read Addiction Support by Angel Ayala. A book with a black cover and red writing, The Coven Princess by Lily Lucchesi. A book with fire on the cover, Friends and Traitors, Slayers Book 2 by C.J. Hill, and I'm enjoying this series. It is a YA series about teenagers that have these cool dragon slayer powers. And a book you indulged in, and that was Runes of Rebirth by Hannah R. Loyne, because I just love her Freedom for Rathos series. So, the astrological signs completed in September is Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Sagittarius, Aries, and Taurus. And October. Nice short one. A book with a 3-word title. Do you know how hard that is too? Like, seriously, I don't know how she comes up with these odd numbered things, because I think there's another prompt in here for like a lettered title, and that one was hard too. I'm like, I have to sit here and count. This is mean. Do you know how hard it was to find those? I read The Pirate Cabal by Mark Secchia, a nonfiction book. I read Addiction Support by Angel Ayala. And then a book with a white cover. I read The Whole Tour Enigma by Cameron Wayne Smith. A book featuring dragons, A Storm of Frost and Flame by Alexia Mouillet Rushbook. And then a book published in the fall, a book that publishes in that fall. And The Moon Drinks Mojitos by Leanna Ersom, which is book 3 in her Lost Soul series. And this is that series that caught me off guard. And this one was just as beautiful and just as wonderful. And I love this series. So it is another one with spice. So for those of you that don't like spice, either don't read it or skip the spice if you do that. Your choice. Libra was the one astrological sign that we did in October. And November. And we're getting down to the bottom because there's only just a couple left. So the November mini, a book with dual point of views or timelines. I read Trials and Command by Erin Halbmeyer, and this one is book 5 in her Ramatari series. And when I read this, I kid you not, because I had already arc read book 4 for her, my book club ended up picking book 1 as the first book that we read in our book club ever, and it was by her. And then after that, I never read books 2, 3, and 4. I believe. 1, 2, what was 2? Oh no, we read 2 again. But books 3 and 4 I still hadn't read, and so I decided to binge read books 3 and 4, which is your Rumpelstiltskin and Phantom of the Opera mashups, and it was good. You can check my flyby reviews for those books by Erin Halbmeyer. And you'll see the one for Trials in Command as well. A book with gold lettering. I picked short stories from Hogwarts of Power, Politics, and Pesky Poltergeists by J.K. Rowling. Try saying that 5 times fast. I like my tongue, so I won't. A book not on your TBR. Not on your November TBR, which was kind of hard, especially when you're like planning prompts. It's like, how do I do this? So, there was a point where I was just listening to audiobooks on YouTube because I needed to get some cooking and stuff done. And so this is what happened. So it was not on my TBR, and it just kind of happened. And I read Never Fall for Your Brother's Best Friend by Abby Grayson. And her YouTube will also be linked because she's got some free audiobooks on there. And I love Abby's books. Absolutely love them. And then a novella. So I read the last one in this little short series of Hogwarts, An Incomplete and Unreliable Guide by J.K. Rowling. And all right, a book that takes place on a farm or a ranch. I read Hannah's Hero by Marjorie Scott. This was a really short, cute book. I didn't realize how short it was. And then I got to the ending and went, wait, whoa, that's the end of the book. Okay, that's the end of the book. It was good. It was cute. And then a book published in the fall of any year. And this one was one I chose, The Moon Drinks Mojitos by Leanna Ersum, because it was published in the fall of last year and it was a good book. Aries and Libra were the astrological signs completed for November. And December. I did not write that one down, but I know what book it is. So a book that is part of a trilogy. I had started reading Defender by C.C. Yuri, but the book, yes, that was the one I read, Defender by C.C. Yuri, because I read books 2 and 3 this January. And that was a good one. I really enjoyed that trilogy. Did not see the ending. Lady, what are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? But that one was a good series. If you like a good dystopia, check out C.C. Yuri's. A book published in December, Ugly, The Stepsister Story by Mary Meekum. If you want to know more about this book, you should check my flyby review because I say a lot more in that. A book with cold winter snow or something similar like in the title. And I read Snow So White by C. Gockel. Hope I said that right. That was an interesting book. I think it's meant to be a Snow White fae fantasy kind of thing, but it's more of a fantasy with just one character who's like Snow White. But I enjoyed the book. Favorite 2026 prompt from the new series, which I'm going to save that one in just a second. A book with a moon on the cover. I read Vampire on the Orient Express by Shane Caro. That was an interesting one. I don't know if it really stood out to me, but it was still good. A book with an oxymoronic title. And I read Dragons Don't Eat Meat by Kim McDougall, which in most books, dragons do eat meat. But in this book, they don't. So it's kind of interesting. And I loved the way that this worked out. And this does have some ADHD representation. So if you are intrigued by kind of like fantasy mystery stuff, this is definitely a book for you. And this was the other one that was hard. A book with a 12-letter title. And I had to sit there and count all the letters in this title. And this was the book that I finished this month for this challenge. And that was Dragon Feared by Kit Bladegrave. And I did enjoy that book. That one was an interesting one. I will probably read the next one. Again, I don't know when. So, to go back to that last prompt for the December minis, favorite 2026 prompt. And basically we were to look at the prompts that she had the theme and prompts that she had chosen for 2026 and pick one that we are basically most excited for, or that will be our favorite to read for. So without further ado, the 2026 theme prompt. Thank you, Cat's Creation 614, Cat's Book Nerds, and the Reading Scientist for this. It's called Reading in Bloom, and it's a flower-themed book prompts. So this is going to be an interesting year. So after going over all of those 52 prompts, not including the minis, the monthly mini ones, because those only come out once a month. But from the main one, my favorite prompt I chose was the Evening Primrose, which features a culture different from your own. And that is my favorite because I love to branch out and read different things from different cultures. It fascinates me. I find it far more interesting than boring history books. And that wraps it up for the astrological challenge of 2025. Thank you so much, Cat's Creation 614, Cat's Book Nerds, and the Reading Scientist. I am totally loving your book challenges and super thrilled for the new one. As always, Book Dragons, find new books, go on new adventures, and stay safe. And please tell me about your adventures. I would love to know, what books should I be reading? Do I need to add some to my TBR? Let me know. Have a good day, Book Dragons.